Good evening. I'd like to call to order this special called meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board for January 8th, 2018. Morgan, would you like to start us with a roll call?
I would. Raymond Layton.
Here.
Sonny Luzo.
Here.
Harry Baker.
Here.
Don Black.
Here.
Willie Newkirk Sr. No. Ms. Carol Williams. Pat Doherty.
Here.
Jeffrey Midget. Mr. Jerry Walker.
Here.
And Marshall Ballard.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you. So our first item is minutes, but I don't think we have any for this particular meeting.
We do not. We
So-
are hiring a temp soon to help with minutes, and she's going to catch us up.
Excellent. We get caught up. That'd be
Yes, but in the meantime, the videos are online for anybody to watch.
great. Perfect. Okay, so that moves us on to new business. So our first item of new business is consideration of a plan unit development, general plan from John Thomas Engineering and Nolan Commercial Contractors Incorporated for Hardee Farms Phase 2. This is a proposed 116 lot plan unit development located south of Bettye Gresham Road. The property is further identified, or the properties, I should say, is further identified in Craven County Parcel ID numbers 7-105-17001, 7-105-15000, 17-105-15001, and these are located in Ward 3. Morgan, would you like to give us the staff review?
Absolutely. So on November 16th, 2018, Development Services, we conducted a departmental review for the proposed general plan for the plan unit development, and the city staff recommends approval of the Hardee Farms Phase 2 general plan as presented. And the comments are attached.
So I looked through those and I did not see anything of consequence or terrible concern. So at this time, I'll open this item up to the board for discussion before we open for public comment. Any discussion amongst the board?
I have two questions. Do we know the kind of mine that this pond was? Was it a gravel pit?
Mr. Thomas, would you mind commenting on that? 'Cause I'm sorry, I should have introduced Mr. John Thomas. He is the engineer for the project.
I'm sorry, what was your question again?
The nature of the mine that was the pond down.
What about it?
What kind of mine was it?
It was a sand mine.
Sand mine, all right. And the other question I had is, I see for Old Airport Road, there's a third lane there. That would be North Carolina DOT responsible for that?
Actually, if you don't mind me backing up just a little bit, when Bryce Carlson development was started, we had, Taberna was pretty well done. Carolina Colors was coming up. In 2006, the city of New Bern actually did a traffic study. They had Kimberly Horn prepare that, which is a pretty well-known company that's very good at that sort of thing. And as part of what they looked at the number of lots that we were going to have on the Hardee farm. We provided that information to them. They looked at what was in Carolina Colors and Taberna, and they ran their models like they normally did. And in that, they came up with an intersection here that would need to be developed at some point in time whenever Bettye Gresham is tied back in. As a result of that, the city of New Bern, I believe, has now taken over Old Airport Road. I believe they have that from DOT now, or they're in the process of getting that. The city of New Bern has also entered into contracts with, I think, Kimberly Horn, to redesign Old Airport Road from Taberna all the way to Evans Mill, or to the bridge there, I believe, or somewhere in that neighborhood. And they're going to 3-lane the whole thing, as I understand it. In that, we've coordinated with them and with Matt Montaigne, with the city of New Bern, to coordinate our entrance and tie it into that. And there'll be some multiple lanes there for turning in and turning out and that sort of thing.
Thank you, John. Any other questions for John while we've got him up here? Okay. Doesn't sound like we've got any more discussion before I open this item for public comment. Okay, hearing none, at this time I will open this item for public comment. What I'd ask is for anyone who'd like to speak in favor of the application, please step up to the podium and clearly state your name and address.
I'm John Thomas with Thomas Engineering, and I just want to say that I'll be glad to answer any questions or respond to any comments that the public may make. I'll be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you, John. Okay, anyone else who'd like to speak in favor of the application? Okay, seeing none, at this time I'll ask anyone who'd like to speak in opposition of the plan unit development. Clearly speak your name and address.
Yeah, Tim Tabak, 3512 Old Airport Road, and I'm not going to really speak in opposition. You know, this is kind of for and against, and I think it's the same thing we've all talked about in the past. That, you know, I don't think anybody in our area, and I'm speaking for Bern, Evans Mill, Longleaf Pines, and all, is against the development. I think everybody's in favor of people having the right to develop their property. The challenge is, and will always continue to be, Old Airport Road and the traffic on it. And one thing John missed out a little bit on at that intersection, I was actually chairman of planning and zoning back when a lot of this happened. Longleaf Pines, there's actually a portion saved and accepted out there for a turn lane also, and the way this plan is designed, what I looked at, what I remember from Longleaf Pines, it all intersects together. So I think that's all working together with Longleaf Pines and the original Bettye Gresham issues and challenges and that kind of thing. And the 3-lane issue is, I think, from Bettye Gresham Lane and Thurman Road up to Taberna, and then also down to the intersection with Carolina Colors there at the school. From that part down through Evans Mill, only with 2 lanes, and it actually is going to be a lot narrower. I think at its widest point it might be 33 feet, and at its narrowest down in Taberna or in Evans Mill, it's only going to be 11 feet for each drive lane and 3 feet for each shoulder, so we're significantly less. So as long as they don't put 600 homes down there at the corner of Old Airport Road and County Line Road, that won't affect our end that much. So it is all together, and really, I'm here really to speak and say thank you for addressing the issues over the traffic, and thank you to staff and employees and everybody else in trying to work with us on this, and that's all we can say is continue to work together. And again, we understand the right for people to develop, but we also would like to have some of the traffic concerns good.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else like to speak at this time? Okay, seeing none, I will close this item for public comment and bring it back to the board for any further comment before I request a motion. Do we have any other public comment? So, or any other board comments? So I'll say this, it's important for us to remember that the planned unit development application that is before us, while John has worked with the city and he is showing the work on Airport Road, that is not a part of the planned unit development itself that is before us for our review and action. So that's the first thing I'll say. Second thing I'll say is, again, this is a planned unit development, and we are the final action and vote on this. This does not go before the Board of Aldermen. So, you know, at this point, our decision tonight will either, in essence, send the developer back to the drawing board to make some changes, work with the city, or if we vote to approve, it will allow them to begin working on the development. Okay? Now that I've laid out some formalities, what other discussion do we have? None? Okay, well, since I don't hear any discussion, this time I'll entertain a motion.
At this point, I'd like to introduce a motion to approve consideration of the planned unit development as put forward by John Thomas Engineering for the 116 lot planned unit development located to the south of Bettye Gresham Road. The properties are further identified in Craven County Parcel identification numbers of 7-105-001-002 17001, 7-105-15000, and 7-105-15001.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay. All right, our next item of new business is consideration of a request to rezone approximately 2.4 acres from R20 residential to C3 commercial. This is an application from Moffett Enterprises LLC and John Thomas Engineering. The parcel is located at 4526 US Highway 17 South and is further identified in the as Craven County Parcel ID number 8-206-079, and this is actually in the ETJ. So, let's see, no conflict of interest here, I presume? Yeah, you're out in that area, right? So,
I don't know if what I have to state about it is a conflict at all, but it is a concern.
okay. All right, well, let's have, Morgan, would you like to give us the staff review for this item, and then we'll have a little board discussion.
Sure. Can I just revisit this real quick here? And you didn't receive notice from the property owners?
It abuts my property, my mother's property,
Okay.
my sister.
Okay. That being said,
Yeah, you probably get you to
you
recuse
might
yourself.
want to request recusal.
Yeah.
I had questioned that myself. That's why.
I would advise it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and do that before we get staff, so let's have you request
We have-
recusal.
Okay, I request recusal from this.
Okay, and I think we'll grant that.
I need a motion on the floor in a second to recuse Mr. Beatty.
Okay, so we have a motion to recuse Mr. Beatty.
Make a motion to recuse Mr. Beatty from the following.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, here, we'll have you sit this one out. Okay, Morgan, now you
Okay.
can give us the staff review.
Okay. John Thomas Engineering and Moffett Enterprises is requesting consideration of their application to rezone 2.4 acres from R20 residential to C3 commercial. The address is 4526 US Highway 17 South. All public notice requirements have been fulfilled. City staff advises the Planning and Zoning Board to recommend approval of the rezoning request to the Board of Aldermen.
Okay, thank you.
Just a point of order, without her, do we have the quorum?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yes, sir, we do. Thank you, Sonny.
Okay, any board discussion on this particular item?
Do we have any idea what the proposed usage will be to this commercial property?
It's going to be well, Mr. Thomas is actually representing that application as well, so I'll let him approach the board again.
Yes, Tessie Staffing is going to go there. They're currently located on Trent Road, and they're looking to sell that piece of property and move to this new location. So it'll be an office type building put there.
And all the parking for the staff and what that would be on site?
Yes.
Yes, that's just, it's simply that C3 is the proper zoning for that particular use.
I'm
and
not,
that's the reason.
I'm not familiar with that business. What, it's just have, just an office building?
Yeah, it's an office building where people who are looking for jobs, they staff them, in different corporations and organizations. There's
Like a
several of
temp
those
staffing
types.
agency, right?
It's a staffing agency, yes. It's not as, some of the other uses up and down there is not like the tire place or the rental place and some of the other places, not that much activity there. This would be basically an office complex. office building for the employees.
Question concerning the map. I can see the site there, and that's all R20, which would be to the north here, and obviously C3 adjacent, but there is a slash
It's
going
right
through
here.
that. Is that for access for,
I don't understand that.
yeah. It's a little,
I have a feeling that the railroad used to come through here like this before they removed it. And so that's my only explanation of that. It looks to be about 100 foot back, and they just ran the rezoning line or the zoning line down the right of way of the railroad. This right here, I can't explain. I don't know if it's a mapping error or what, because the actual, there's nothing in here that I know of. The home is over here in the C3. There's nothing located that we can find in there. So I don't know if it's a mapping error. It's hard to track that sort of thing.
sure.
It may have been that this line here might not have been defined at the time that they did this, but everything here is C3, everything back that way is C3. This is in the gap. And also, just for your information, there's about 25 to 30 feet of wetlands right here that go on our property, and there's about 25 to 30 feet of wetlands over there too. So it's pretty well buffered with whatever goes in there. We can't go down there and tear the
From
wetlands
your
out.
experience, does a little slash of land like that ever see future issues in ownership or anything?
Do you know who owns it?
Well, this right here,
Yeah, hard to say.
I don't know. I don't know. I think if you look back, if you can ever find the ordinance that created that, it's probably a mapping
Sure, and
area.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
On the GIS and the official zoning map, it shows that property as split zoned with that oddity indicated.
Okay. I'm just curious more than anything, it kind of stands out.
Yeah, we didn't pick up on that until a month or so ago, and we just thought everything over here was C3, and we know everything's that way C3, and when we had it surveyed, then it kind of popped up.
As a member of the public.
I think I can. This is contact me.
So Hiram, what I'll get you to do is say your name and address.
Harron Beatty, I live at 407 Rocky Run Road, and I'm the owner of Beatty's Plumbing Company, and the property there beside it is my mother. This area in question right here is somewhat of a thin stretch of woodland, right? The house property is right here, but this is like a strip of woodland that comes up to the street, and it goes on back in, and that property L's back over toward this here, but it's woodland. It's that wet stuff that he's
Yeah, it's
talking
wet.
about. It's part of that wet.
Okay. Thank you, Hiram.
Thank you, Harry.
Okay. Any other discussion or any more questions for John? So I suppose the bottom line is that we don't, this fits in with the land use plan. There's no reason for us to think any otherwise, and staff recommendation is to approve the rezone.
It does. It only makes sense. It's the highest and best use for the property. Traffic's not an issue.
Right.
We have no concerns at all.
Okay. Okay, well, at this time, is there any public comment on this? I'll open it up for public comment, all right?
I have a little. Once again, Harron Beatty, 407 Rocky Run Road. That's my home right there, okay? Now, when we were brought into the ETJ, it was under our understanding, the residents who would represent Rocky Run at that time, that the ETJ would not, that's not true, that the commercial properties would not extend beyond a certain point. This addition right here is beyond what we were understanding at that time would have been the extent of commercialism encroaching into the Rocky Run community. This is about 175 feet additionally. Now, if I'm not remembering numbers right, please correct me. Coming off 17, it was supposed to be about 200 feet deep in the original ETJ conversation with bringing Rocky Run in. And even though you're saying you're putting a office building right here, this leaves us open to too much commercialism, the potential of commercialism. This is my backyard right here, my other property owned by my family, and my sister's house right here. The Guyans family is right here. Now, this puts them also abutting commercial property, and we were always under the impression that this would not extend this deep into the community. That's my concern.
It is a single parcel, correct, Morgan?
Yeah, it's this, sir.
That piece probably was bought later from a different person. This was owned by whomever, and this right here was owned by the Simmons family when we went into ETJ. And this was a hole, and it's filled with junk. Okay? This was the woods, and it was junk. And this point on, as I'm understanding, was not supposed to be commercialized. That was said I had a concern.
Okay. Thank you.
If I respond to,
Yeah, absolutely.
my client owns everything from here to Rocky Run Road. They own this piece and this strip back here and another piece over here. We're not in, yeah, all this is owned by my client. That piece right there is owned by my client. We're not interested in doing any commercial beyond that. We want to leave this residential. Matter of fact, this piece right here could stand as a residential home site. There is an area on here where a septic system could be put in to support a home in there if they ever elected to do that. Our building is going to be up in here. We expect maybe a little bit of parking here with a stormwater pond back over here. There's good buffer here in the wetlands, so we don't anticipate there being a lot of.
As I was saying, I wasn't in opposition.
Yeah, I know.
None of us were in opposition to the commercializing of it, development of it. If we were concerned with how deep is that image that we're looking at, and what is in that plan, in that depth, because of what we initially.
I just wanted to make sure everybody understood what we owned, my client owned in there.
Absolutely. Thank you, John. So Morgan, was there any sort of formal agreement about, I mean, you know, obviously, if that's that parcel, you're not going to split zone it. It's, I guess, not being familiar if there was an agreement there. That would be my question.
I would have to do research and find out. I do not know if there was said agreement. I would have to do some research. Probably just, my understanding is most likely the way that development has been is it's just been extending towards that direction for some time, and it just gained momentum as being more of a commercial area because farther up the road you've got the new Bern marketplace, and those are being developed more commercially. So as we start moving down the road towards 17, it's just the development pattern. But I would be happy to look into it if that's something you would like me to do.
Well, I guess my only question, obviously, we see a line there where the railroad tracks used to be, and this parcel is obviously across that. And so, you know, we have Mr. Bettye, as a member of the public, indicating that there was their recollection that, I hesitate to say agreement, but that wouldn't extend beyond that line. And I just, I'm curious if there was, you know, what was the language, or was there any language?
It was very contentious, yes it was.
Well, I'm certain of that, but contentiousness aside, I guess the question is, was there any actual legal language that defined, you know, a boundary?
I'd like to add this comment. When I say it was contentious, it wasn't my family contentious, but the community at large securing its rural atmosphere.
Right.
Sure.
Right. And but that would, if you don't mind me asking, when was that time frame?
I'm gonna say almost 30 years ago.
Wow. Okay. So that explains that. And wow.
Mr. Chairman, is it possible
I
that
came
we
back
could
here in
table this until
89.
research is done?
Certainly.
So it was like 92, 93.
Okay.
To answer your question, Don, yes, we could certainly vote to table this. And
Pending
so
research.
So again, this is a rezoning, so just a little more, point of order is that any rezonings, we make a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen, it goes to the Board of Aldermen. So if we table it, it won't go to the Board of Aldermen, it would come back to us after we give Morgan some specific instructions for what we'd like her, what we'd like staff to find out for us.
And are there issues concerning the temp agency that, would they have the time to accommodate this? I guess that's Mr. Thomas.
Well, I'm not sure that, well, that's really not within our purview, so we are looking at the rezoning strict, I mean, that's a thoughtful comment. I think really what we have to be concerned with is we have received a public comment that has at least brought up a question in my mind, is there a
Some kind of
legal
formal,
description
yeah.
of a boundary? The answer may very well be that there's not one, in which case I'd be in favor of the rezoning. So,
John,
Go
do
ahead.
you need that piece for the BMP? Is that why it's been extended?
This is a very difficult piece of property to develop. If you went on it, you'd see what I'm talking about. The building would go on the front piece. We need a little wraparound parking in the back of the building, and then the rest of it would be left open, and we need to put a stormwater pond back in there. So that's why the amount of land is what we need.
So I've been on the planning and zoning board for almost 5 years now. I don't recall this coming before us for subdivision, so, it's been this has been the parcel for at least that long, maybe longer.
They did a recombination recently.
Okay.
It's 2 or more lots there, and we did do a recombination on them.
Okay, I do remember that, so, yep. All right.
But, I'm sure that what Mr. Beatty said was probably done in good faith 30 years ago with the people who were sitting in the powerful positions at that time. But I doubt you want to find an agreement, because you can't do contract agreement on zoning.
No, you
Yeah.
can't. That was gonna be my next question is,
And we would like to move forward with the project.
Sure.
We've been working on this for quite some time. We've had a whole lot of hurdles to get through to try to get it to a point. They have their other piece of property up for sale that could sell at any time. And even if you were to, let's say, approve it tonight, then we're looking at next month to get before the Board of Aldermen, and then we're looking at another 3 months to get the whole thing permitted to be able to move forward.
Mr. Thomas, I want you to know, I'm not trying to get you to not develop the property, but be very conscientious of what you develop behind us, because we already know our nephews are putting homes over here. We already know that, and they have in their mind that they're gonna be rural. And if you're just gonna put the retention pond back there, respectfully, that meant that we could retain still our rural setting and quiet, peaceful
I
environment.
think you will see, and I'll be glad to share a concept plan with you that we've already done. I know that really shouldn't be a subject of this particular hearing, but basically what I've said that we were doing is what we were doing. And there's a fairly good buffer back there, and there'll be no noise associated with it at all, like some of the other commercial businesses that are out there.
Yes, because we commercial across it too.
Will it be fenced, John? Will it be fenced?
Has to be
I
like
doubt it, because there's nowhere to put a fence.
Okay.
It's completely, on both sides, it's nothing but wetlands, and as a matter of fact, on the right side is a blue line stream, so we can't even get within 50 foot of that. So both sides are pretty well buffered.
It's a stream on both sides of it.
All right.
um,
Thank you, John. Any more public comment on this particular application before I close public comment and bring it back to the board for further discussion? Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public comment and bring it back to the board. Okay, so, sounds like it was long enough ago, there's likely no record of those discussions, and there's also, as Morgan said, that you can have no legal contract language regarding zoning. So, what would we like to talk about, fellow board members?
Well, I'll bring up the subject. I was kind of leaning towards the table because it sounded like giving good effort to see what we can find, but having then heard that it was 30 years old, my gosh, that really changes things or the light of the situation. I would imagine that we probably won't find anything about that. And that was kind of like an opinion I heard a minute ago. Up until then, I was ready to approve this for rezoning, and I think I still am, based on what we've heard.
Yeah, I think I'm of the same opinion that you are, Jerry. But obviously, we've got for board discussion, so now's the time to talk about anything that concerns us.
This will go to the Board of Aldermen after us, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
That's correct.
Yeah, unless we table it. If we table it,
If we didn't table it, it goes to the Board of Aldermen, bear with me on this, maybe
Yeah.
it's such an intelligent question. Today has the recourse of the ability, if something came up in Morgan's staff's research, to say, no, this is a,
oh, absolutely. We only make a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen, so we can recommend
They have the
to
final say.
Right.
approve the rezoning or recommend to disapprove the rezoning, but they can do either or regardless of our recommendation.
right, thank you.
And in the agenda packets that I give the Board of Aldermen, they always get a copy of the minutes from the meeting that discussed it, that they do take into account, so they can see what the discussion was, what the comments were.
And there's also the opportunity for public comment,
Okay.
you know.
If
That's
we
more
do
involved.
table it though, we're only talking about tabling it for a month, will it return to us in next month's meeting?
Theoretically, I mean, at that point, it's between the applicant and
That doesn't
staff.
seem to be an unreasonable time, 1 month to allow a little bit of investigation, if it turns up nothing, I would be more comfortable going forward then.
I don't
think-
disagree with you, Don.
I think, essentially a 30-day delay, I don't think it's unreasonable.
Okay.
Certainly would iron out any issue.
Well, it may not answer any questions,
You're right.
but it would certainly mean that we
Provide the
have
opportunity for investigation.
taken the opportunity to further research the question.
At this point, I mean, I'm very comfortable introducing a motion to table this matter for our next meeting.
Okay, well, hold that for just a second. Is there any more discussion before I entertain a motion? Just we want to make sure everybody has a chance to speak if there's something to be
My
said.
only question was, if the Board of Aldermen is going to have the final decision on this, if we did table it, then the engineers and the people developing have to wait probably quite a few more months.
I don't think so. We're
As
talking-
long as we don't get bogged down, and we can't do it next month, and they can't do it for 2 months after that.
I think we should provide an opportunity, there's a reasonable doubt in my mind,
Okay.
which I don't want to make a decision right now. I would like to have an opportunity to have them ferret out whatever.
I respect that completely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's essentially it's going to be 30 days. And then it goes to the board, we only make a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen for the zoning change. And there's a question, they're going to have the same question if this comes up again, so it's really in our purview to review it.
Okay. Any other discussion before I entertain a motion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I'm just throwing out just a couple of things for the board to
Yeah.
consider before you guys make a
Certainly.
final decision here, just from staff opinion. Mr. Thomas was delayed originally because of the recombination survey. We were going to do this originally in December, I believe, but because of the recombination and the time it takes to process that and have it recorded, he was delayed by 30 days. I will certainly look for this agreement, but I really don't think you're going to find anything.
yeah, I don't
I don't
disagree.
think there was a written decision.
It was probably a promise.
It was basically a promise.
Right, and you can't do contractual zoning with strings such as that. You can do a development agreement where you're horse trading and you're doing favor for favor, but with zoning, you cannot do that.
I know in the state of North Carolina, though, a verbal promise is a legal contract too. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to find anything, but I think it bears some study.
But as development patterns change over time, that's when you have to be cognizant of those agreements, and then you modify the zoning map as that pattern changes.
But this is contemporary. A member of the board here remembers that. It's not like when there was a racetrack in the 1700s in Duffy Field area. So This is much more contemporary, and I think it bears a little bit of investigation.
What specifically are we going to be looking for?
Right. That's, that was my next question.
There might be,
Thank you, Sonny.
there might be statements in local press or something, and if people in good faith did something 30 years ago promising not to develop beyond the railroad tracks, I think it's incumbent upon us to follow those guidelines.
It's not legally binding, though.
Right.
I just want y'all to respect certain things.
Oh, yeah.
You didn't have to be legal bound to it, but, and listen to this even more so, I think you should more consider what I've asked of you and table it, because I don't want us, that, I'm gonna put it this way, that community at that time put a lot of faith in me to represent them by word. Now, there are those who are still living who are gonna dog me later if I tend to just roll over and act like I don't remember, because they will. And I don't want the property not to be developed, but I wanna make sure that we secure it's done in a very respectful, residential, safe way. And the thing about a pond, my cousin, second cousin, drowned in Pembroke in one of them unsecured ponds, okay? When I was 9 years old. So the potential of all them children, and we just a little bit away from that playground, those children run all the way across all that because it's an open area. And so if you're gonna have a pond and it's not covered, it's gonna be dangerous for us. So after hearing that, really, I really think y'all need to slow your roll and do some additional thinking. Even though he's been patiently waiting, you just threw this upon us now. So our 30 days need to be respected also in that light. No disrespect against you, Mr. Thomas, but I don't want people come back at me later and ask me, well, did you? So I did. Because I'm not in opposition to the development of the property.
Understood. Thank you, Aaron. So let me again just clarify that from what the application that is before us is for the rezoning, and this is not for you necessarily, this is just for the members of the voting board at this point. So the application that is before us is for the rezoning, not for the development. You know, the site plan approval and the department review, that's going to go through staff and through that procedure, and you know, we as anybody else will be relying on the city staff to do what they're supposed to do in regard to that review. What is before us is the rezoning, and we can't really take into account what may or may not be happening on the property other than the use that's you know, put before us. So, having said that, is there any more discussion from the board before I entertain a motion? And so let me also say this, that if there's a motion to table, the motion should include what we are asking staff to, what information we are asking staff to provide to us when it comes back before us.
And a date of the next meeting.
Yeah. Which would be, help me on that.
It would be February 5th is the next up.
Okay. February 5th, 2019.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, any more discussion? All right, so at this time, I'll entertain a motion.
I would like to introduce a motion to table further decision on the rezoning of this parcel for the February 5th meeting of 2019 to determine what official or unofficial discussions by city planners concerning the preservation of the residential zoning of any parcels extending beyond the 200 feet on the old railroad property.
Okay, thank you, Don. We have a motion. Is there a second? Okay, I'm not hearing a second, so that motion fails. So I bring it back to the board again, I'd entertain a motion. If tabling is not acceptable, then I'd entertain a motion to recommend approval or recommend disapproval to the Board of Aldermen.
I'd make a motion for recommendation to the Alderman to approve the zoning as it's been, the zoning located between 4520 and 4600 US 17 South from R20 to C3.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Interesting.
Okay, so that motion also fails, so that only leaves one alternative, and that would be a motion to recommend disapproval. Do I hear that motion? Okay, I don't hear that either. All right, Morgan, so what would you like us to do now? Because I think we have to act on it.
You have to pull the trigger in some capacity.
Yeah.
You have to recommend denial, you have to recommend
If we have to pull
approval,
the trigger, then I will
You
second Don's motion.
but you can choose to table it
Right.
this go
Well,
around.
I mean, that's, well, those are our three options.
Yes,
Table it, recommend approval, or
Yes.
recommend disapproval.
that's correct.
Okay, so,
So I'm going to second Don's motion to table.
well, then let's have you remake the motion then.
Yes.
Or have Don remake the motion, since we've moved on past that.
Okay.
Okay, I would like to repeat my earlier motion to table the decision on the rezoning of this matter for the February 5th meeting to allow some time for the people in the planning department to determine if there was any kind of official discussions concerning the preservation of the 200-foot boundary approximate for the residential zoning of that parcel.
Okay? Thank you, Don. So we
I'll-
have a
I'll
motion.
second that.
All right, so now we have a second. So now we can vote on this. So, Morgan, why don't we do a roll call since we've had this much discussion now? That way we can make sure we're all on the same
Gotcha.
page.
That's a great plan. Okay, make sure everybody understands the motion. The motion
Yeah.
is to table it until the next meeting, which is February the 5th.
Correct.
So,
But also part of the motion is what that
And for-
we're going to look into.
yes, and for me to do my research and to figure out if this document does exist. So,
Correct.
roll call vote. Mr. Layton,
Nay.
Mr. Aluza,
Yay.
you're recused. Mr. Black,
Yay.
Mr. Doherty,
Yay.
Mr. Walker,
Nay.
Mr. Ballard.
Yes.
The motion passes 4-2 in favor of tabling it until the next meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right,
Nice to see the procedure in action.
yeah. So I believe that gets us to the end of new business, and we have no old business to discuss.
You do have one thing that was left off of your agenda, and that is to approve your calendar for the next year. I have it right here.
I would like to make a comment about that.
Yes, sir.
The
That's
The
right, 'cause
August
we didn't have a-
meeting-
Didn't have a
the
quorum. last
August
time.
meeting is the first, obviously the first Tuesday, which is,
National Night Out.
thank you.
I tried to get around that. I'm sorry.
What, can we not? Is that what you're saying?
Well, we can move it up a day. We can move it, we can't move it back a day because I will have design reviews. So we can either move it up a day or we can move it back a week and keep it on a Tuesday.
Whichever, I don't care.
Well,
Whichever,
if
for
you
me,
move
it
it
makes no difference.
up a day, you mean as
Like a
in
Wednesday,
the fifth,
maybe?
as move it to the 5th?
Yes.
That'd be Monday. I would suggest or request that we move it to Thursday rather than Monday.
So that would be the 8th.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Okay.
That'd be my request.
I would like that, I would prefer that myself.
The 8th.
I just need something in the form of a
Yeah,
motion.
we'll make a motion. Any other discussion about our calendar? And then what I'll do is ask for a motion
For all of it, yeah.
for approving all of it with that change.
I'll move the submission date. It will just be moved up. It's always 2
Yeah.
weeks before, so I'll make that adjustment.
Right, I'm with you. Okay? Doesn't sound like we've got any other discussion or requests for revisions. So at this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve our calendar with that revision.
I'd like to introduce a motion to amend the calendar for the August meeting, instead of being on the 6th, to be on the 8th.
And to approve the calendar
To
for
approve the
2019.
calendar as otherwise written for 2019 schedule.
Okay, perfect. So we have a motion before us. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Oh, no, you're still
I couldn't
recused.
second it.
can't
No,
second,
you
you're
haven't
still
been, you
recused.
haven't been brought back
I
yet.
forgot.
I'll
You were
second
still
that.
recused.
Thank
All
you,
right, so
Jerry.
we got a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Our calendar is approved.
The calendar is approved.
Perfect. Okay, so now I think we are
We're done.
done with new business, correct?
We are done.
Let's bring her back. I move that we bring her back.
All right, we move that we can bring Heron back.
Super, I like
We had a-
that. That's
Do
good.
we have a second to bring Heron
Second.
back?
Yep, we
Thank
do.
you. All in favor of bringing
Signify
Heron
by
back?
saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Welcome back, Hiram. So,
It was a nice vacation.
at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would like to introduce a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Okay? Perfect. We have a motion.
I can
to
second
adjourn.
that.
Yes, you can. All right, we have a motion to say. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.